This is the Sync4 Infotainment system that you're going to find inside of the Ford Bronco, and it's good for from the Bronco 1st Gen up to the 2024 model as of right now, with one difference in the 2024 that I'll touch on once we get to navigation. But your basics here. So you've got your clock along the very top left that you can push in order to be able to adjust it that way if you'd like. Along the very top right, you've got your current connection status, and then outside temperature. All of these different trays are going to be there, and that's going to be locked into place, so that can't be adjusted or moved. And then you've also got this little tray as well, where you can navigate between a few other options. Now, one thing is that some of them also have this little arrow along the side, so you can see that pointing out to the left. What that means is when you get to that arrow, you can swipe across if you want to, or just tap in order to move into whatever that was. And same idea, we can kind of move across to move back into audio that way. You can push this in order to get to this little icon view instead. So there are a few different options that are available there. Exit out, and then from there you've got sources. So you've got AM, FM, SiriusXM, Bluetooth, USB. You can hook your phone up if you want to over Bluetooth, or you can go Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, which I'll touch on once we get to the phone. USB devices are available, so you could browse USB to see what songs are currently on there. If you want to, you can kind of look around. From there, sources, AM, FM, etc. You've got direct tune capabilities, so if you wanted to tune to a station, you could do it that way as well. You could also push the voice command prompt, 102.1 FM.
Tuning to FM 102.1.
So you can also adjust that way instead. And then if you wanted to overwrite a preset, all you're going to do is just press and hold, and that's going to overwrite a preset for you instead. You could plus or minus this way, you could tune this way. There are a lot of different ways you can tune out. There are different sound settings, so you've got your treble mid-range bass. It's typically going to be centered off like this. I find cranking the bass a bit, dropping the treble a bit, tends to give pretty good audio. That's just a matter of preference though. From there, you've got balance and fade, so do you want it focused on the driver, more centered focused, whatever the case may be, or recenter it back to the middle. Speed compensated volume, as you're going faster or slower, it's automatically going to raise or lower the volume for you as necessary. From there, you've got, let's go into SiriusXM for a second, a few unique things. So you've got a notification bell. So big benefit of that notification bell is that when an artist or song comes on, you can be notified of either the artist or the song, and then it's going to let you know that that artist or song is now playing, which is kind of cool. You've got a series of different SiriusXM settings that are available there too. So things like blocking explicit content, preset pages, and a few others. One thing to point out with preset pages, I personally recommend going for 6 because it gives you up to 30 presets, but you can adjust it out for however many or few you'd like to there. You've got browse, so strictly for SiriusXM, you can look at all of your different categories there as well. So for you, music, news, talk, all that fun stuff. You can go between different stations that way as well. And then if you wanted to, you could also do a press and hold in order to save the preset that way. So it's really straightforward. Next up, let's add in a phone. So we're going to start off on the iPhone side of things. So all you're going to do,
search
iPhone,
for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
I'm just waiting for Bronco to pop up.
Confirm that the pin displayed on Sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up, which is perfect. Do I want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? I'm going to say no to that one. Perfect, and we are fully paired there. So you
For
could...
your safety, please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
Oh, thank you. So fully connected there, and then the vehicle also does support CarPlay. So with CarPlay, do you want to use it with the Bronco? Yay, nay, but just before we get into that one, you've got a series of other options that are available here. So you can activate your Siri Assistant by doing a press and hold on the steering wheel. So if you wanted to activate your assistant, you could go that way if you'd like to. There it goes. And then you've got your contacts, do not disturb mode, and a few other things. So you could stream audio over Bluetooth, but I'm a bigger fan of doing things through CarPlay. So do you want to use CarPlay with your Bronco? Yes. Enable. And we're just going to give that a second. Look at that. Fully connected. So you've got your basic little split screen there. You've got a full screen or a little icon view there too. If you wanted a full screen, see this little button along the very top left? You can push that in order to extend it out to a full screen instead. I mean, look at that. That is beautiful. You've got your current time, connection, battery level, which map was open last, which audio application was opened, and then which miscellaneous app. And then you can go back to this main screen instead. So main versus icon view, which you can also just swipe in between if you wanted to. But on this icon view, it's which map was open last, some basics, and then you've also got, if you've got an upcoming calendar alert, it's going to let you know. Series of different maps, which this is so odd. For whatever reason, this is still glitching out like this, where you've got just like, it's technically in full screen mode, but Apple Maps, and it looks like, I think Google Maps is the same idea. What's it going to do here? Oh, and now it's like even weirder of a split screen. Oh no. Oh, I don't like that at all. Oh, that's super odd. Yeah, so it looks like there's a little bit of a bug with Apple Maps, and I think Google Maps is the same. Yeah, Google Maps is the same way. So you could still technically use these things, but I mean, really at this point, that is really odd. Really odd. Yeah. What do you do? Oh well. And then from there, so you've also got the option of going through. So if we go, oh, I don't like how it's doing that. Oh well. Press this icon in order to go to route options. So if you wanted to avoid highways, toll roads, and ferries, you've got that flexibility. You've got map colors, satellite map, traffic, north up, etc. And then you could push to get back home. Waze, I think, is the only one that's working properly, where it's like a full, like true, authentic full screen. Any Waze users will know that's a little icon you can push in order to notify people of obstacles. No pinch to zoom across the board for any map application on Apple Maps, though. You can move around, but pinch to zoom, you'd unfortunately not be able to do. Moving back home, and then there are a series of different audio apps. You can listen to your podcasts if you wanted to. You can listen to different music, audiobooks. There are different apps available, library apps, and things like that. So there's a lot of flexibility inside of the screen, which is kind of nice. Then you do have the flexibility of being able to adjust this thing a tiny little bit. So on your screen, if you go to General, CarPlay, find your car, you can forget it, turn CarPlay off when the screen is locked, or customize. So if you're not a fan of the setup, if you'd prefer to have your podcast there along with, I don't know, let's say Waze, you can adjust it that way. You can also start removing different icons from the view as well. So it fully removes them there, but it keeps it here. So you could add them back in there if you wanted to, but if you don't like what you've done on CarPlay, or on your phone I should say, you've got the option to reset, and you can bring it back to the factory default screen there instead. Pretty useful. Now, pushing CarPlay there does nothing unless you're off the CarPlay screen, then you can go back home there instead. And then if you wanted to, you could push the phone list along the very top to get back to this screen. If you go into phone settings, you're grayed out there because you're connected over CarPlay. So if you connect back over Bluetooth instead, so we're disconnecting CarPlay, hooking up through the phone, you can hook up for your phone or for audio if you'd like. Back there, you can then go and manage contacts, you can mute audio, roaming warnings, and all that fun stuff, or you can delete the phone from the vehicle. So I know that's quite a bit, but that's how you set up an iPhone inside of the Ford Bronco. All right, setting up an Android device is the exact same process. So if you weren't on the screen, let's say if you were back on the phone screen, I've obviously got that phone connected. So you're just going to settings, and then from there, phone list, and then you can just add in a phone.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
Just waiting for Bronco to show up. There we go. Couldn't connect. Okay. I do find that happens sometimes with Android devices.
Confirm that
there we go. Just pushed it again and it worked.
The pin displayed on your device.
So if you ever get a weird message saying that it can't connect, just keep on pressing or turn Bluetooth off, turn it back on again in order for it to connect. So we're going to hit OK and yes. Perfect. Matched up. Contacts.
For
no.
your safety, please stay alert
Messages,
to changing
no.
road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
There we go. And same idea. So you could enable Android Auto if you want to. You could say no. Same idea. If I'm using an Android, may as well use Android Auto as well to get the most out of the phone. So it's connecting through. And going to continue there. Boom. Would you look at that? Fully connected. And same idea. So we've got this little split screen right now. And then from here, you've got all these basic options that are available. So you can push this little icon if you wanted to get to this little split screen. And it doesn't look like, oh, that's weird. So you know what? Oh, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Haha. So Android Auto, you do have the flexibility. I was like, you can go full screen on Android Auto. There we go. So you push this little icon there in order to go full screen, which still gives you this little split screen. So if you wanted a true full screen map, you're just going to push the map icon instead. And look at that. Full screen Google Maps, pinch to zoom capabilities. You could look for previous destinations or addresses, whatever the case may be. You could mute out audio, route options to avoid motorways, toll roads, ferries, fastest route, most efficient route, whatever the case may be. Really straightforward. I love that it is pinch to zoom capabilities, drag and drop. That is beautiful. You can go back home from there. Again, you can see a ton of different things here now. So you've got your basic split, this icon view, back to the main screen instead. You've got your current status level with your battery level there, your maps, podcasts, and audio, whatever the case may be, and then Google Assistant. So you could push there for your Google Assistant or press and hold the button on the steering wheel in order to activate your assistant that way instead. Pretty straightforward. Now, I've got a few different applications that are there. So Waze and Google Maps are both showing up. But unfortunately, for some people, Waze on your device may not actually be available. So if that's the case, then what you're going to have to do is go through your phone in order to set it up. But if Waze isn't working properly in your phone, like what we're seeing here, or if it's not even showing up at all, I've put together a little walkthrough explaining how to actually set it up. So if this is happening to you, drop down in the description of the video in order to see how you can actually set up Waze to work properly inside of your vehicle. You've also got the flexibility of doing a few customizations in your Android device. So what you're going to do is search for Android Auto settings, you're going to click through, and that's going to bring you to this screen, which gives you a ton of different options. So you can change the layout, taskbar widgets, and a few other things, but the big one is going to be customizing the launcher. So very similar to the iPhone side, you could just do a drag and drop in order to be able to adjust any of these things, or you can deselect them. But here's the thing. It's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things. So you actually have to get out of Android Auto on your phone, on the vehicle, launch back in for these changes to take into effect. So unfortunately, like I said, not dynamic, but it still is available there. Now, if you push your phone list along the top right side, you can see you're connected to Android Auto. So you can be connected to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. You can't be connected to both of them at the same time. But one neat thing is that you could, let's say if you have one phone that you want to use for your phone calls, one for audio, you can do a mix and match if you want to. So it's either Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, or a mix of these as well, which is kind of nice. You can go to your phone settings, and then if you wanted to delete a device, just delete. And then same idea, phone setting, delete, and yes, and you're set to go. So it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of the Ford Bronco. Okay, next up, looking at navigation. So navigation is an interesting one, and it's different now in the 2024 Bronco than in previous years, and that's specifically to do with the type of navigation. So previous Broncos had what's known as connected built-in navigation. So after the connected services were up, it would essentially move into a regular GPS where you could enter in your destinations and search whatever the case may be. But inside of the 2024, it's now only got what's known as connected navigation. So it's not built in anymore. So you've got a year of included service with your Bronco. But after the year of service is up, if you don't subscribe, it's essentially going to move to a dead moving map instead. So it's just going to follow your car around as you drive, and you wouldn't be able to enter in a destination. So you could still connect to your phone to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze if you wanted to. But unfortunately, you have to be connected to the service and pay for the service through the Ford Pass app otherwise. So that's the unfortunate downside here. But let me go through and explain everything that you need to know about the navigation system here. So you see this little icon, you can push that in order to go full screen instead. And I love that full screen map. That is beautiful, nice and responsive too, which is great. Along the top left-hand side, you can look at map orientation, which there's nothing crazy there. Like, do you want to be the 2D, 3D, north, whatever the case may be? Voice, when you're coming up to an upcoming turn, do you want a voice and tone, a voice, or strictly a tone instead? You can avoid certain things on the map. So do you want to avoid toll roads, tunnels, ferries? Do you want to show certain things like point of interest icons? So food, gas stations, camping sites, more settings. So do you want to, what's the big one here? Routing and map preferences. Do you want to use car lanes? Do you want the vehicle to automatically reroute you if traffic's getting crazy? Do you want the fastest or the most eco-friendly route? And then breadcrumbs. So honestly, I do recommend breadcrumbs on. It's kind of neat because if we go back to the map for a second, you see these little dots? That's essentially places that the vehicle's been. So if you're going on a trail or different places that you've never been, turn the breadcrumbs on because it's going to let you know the places that you've been, which I think is a great feature. More settings, nothing overly exciting there. Some of these things are grayed out because you do need to have the connected navigation services set up. Searching for an address is straightforward. You can search by GPS coordinates, so latitude first, longitude second. You can search for point of interest icons instead if you want to. You can type in an address, so let's just give it a second there. Oh, guess it helps if I spell that right. There we go. So we're going to look at, let's just go to a random Tim Hortons that's further away. So 1.3K. You can save it as a destination. You can look for parking, include 4x4 routes in Toronto. Oh yeah. And then you've got this in order to look at different routes that are available. So if you wanted to go to a different route, you've got that flexibility. Push back, see the end destination. You could go back into a split screen instead, or you just hit start.
Traffic laws. Be alert and
there
use voice commands while driving.
So you can see there that we are going. You can add in a stop too. So stops, let's say if you wanted to stop at a gas station as well, you've got that flexibility. You could look at your overview. You can mute out notifications as well, or you can hit this in order to cancel the route. Then you can tap in order to restart if you'd like to. Looking at recents, that's the address that we went to. If you swipe across, that's going to give you this little garbage icon. So if you wanted to delete, that's how you delete one of these things, which is really straightforward, a previous destination. You can then set up your home or work address. Benefit there is that if you push the voice command prompt, you can say navigate home, navigate to work, whatever the case may be. It'll navigate you to whatever your set destinations have been. And back home from there. So that's honestly the basics of factory nav. Like there's nothing else too crazy other than this, which is the useful one. So if you're ever off-roading and you get stuck, lost, whatever the case may be, you can find out what your GPS coordinates are. You can see what your ref location is on top of that, which is pretty nice. You've got a little apps icon there in order to hot button press for Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, different settings that are available. So adding in a phone, we've already seen the sync navigation settings, so map orientations and things like that. Sound settings, because the audio is not turned on, but with the audio on, you've now got your sound settings there. So tone, balance, fade, all that fun stuff, which we've already seen. And this is a SiriusXM button. But if we are in, say either AM or FM, back to settings, it's now a generic radio button instead. So that's where you're going in order to change your radio presets, radio text, and that fun stuff. You've got basic vehicle settings, 30-minute max idle, rear occupant alert, so when you go to turn the vehicle off, it's going to remind you to check the back seats. My Key lets you set up certain limitations for your key fob, so not going past a certain speed, a few other things as well. Remote start setup, so you could have remote start through your key fob or the Ford Pass app, but when you're remote started, what happens? Do you want the climate to be auto or based off of the last settings? So do you want the vehicle to determine what the cabin temperature should be or based off of the last time you drove? Would you want your heated seats to come on, yay or nay? And then how long do you want the remote start to last? 5, 10, or 15 minutes? Windows, you've also got the flexibility of using the key fob to roll the windows down. So let's hop outside and I'll show you how that process works. It's straightforward to do. So you press the unlock button twice, and on the second button press, you're going to hold. So you're going to go 1, 2, and hold. See there? You can push the lock button in order to pause it part way, or same idea, you're just going to do another double press and hold, and once it starts going down again, you can release for it to go through the rest of the process. That's a pretty neat one. So unfortunately in the Bronco, it's strictly a remote open. You have to manually close the windows, but it's nice to be able to air things out after a hike. Wipers, the big one here, courtesy wipe, and then, so yeah, I got rear wiper in reverse. So courtesy wipe, if you've got your wipers going, what's going to happen is at the end of the cycle, it's going to go one more time in order to get rid of any excess liquid that might be on the windshield. Rear wiper went in reverse. So if you've got your front windshield wipers going, with this setting turned on, it's automatically going to turn on the rear wiper for you when you go into reverse. Which, I mean, hold on, let's look at reverse for a second there. So this one doesn't have the optional 360 camera, so it's strictly the backup camera, and then the reverse sensing system. So that beeping that you get as you back up, you could toggle it off if you want to. And then obviously if you had your 360 camera, that would also show up. And then you can also do a plus there if you wanted more of like a hitch view. So if you have the trailer tow pack and you're towing, you could look down to line yourself up to hook up a trailer. Pretty useful. And from there, ambient lighting is available in different parts of the vehicle, and it's strictly going to be a single color. You can toggle it on or off. And back, you've also got locks. Let's see, auto unlock, mislock, chirp. So if you go to shut the door and you haven't shut it completely, you go to lock, it's going to chirp at you to let you know. Do you, when you unlock the vehicle, want all doors to become unlocked, or do you just want the driver's door to become unlocked? And clock settings, which you can go through the settings and clock or press the clock along the top in order to be able to adjust this out. You can go auto time zone if you want to, or military time. So if you prefer that 24-hour mode, you can increase or decrease minutes, AM, PM, all that fun stuff. Series of general settings. So do you want English, Spanish, French, Celsius or Fahrenheit, kilometers or miles per gallon? And that changes out a few things inside of the cluster screen as well. From there, you've got the touchscreen beep. So the beeping that we're getting here, if that drives you nuts, you could toggle it off. And then there's also a reset for two different options. So Ford Pass is the app that you can get on your phone. So if you're having issues there, you can reset that, or you can do a full factory reset to bring you right back to your factory default screen instead. There is also another option if you wanted to do a screen reset here. So in order to be able to do a full screen reset, I'm going to actually show you at the end, but it essentially is pushing in the power button and then the right seek button in order to be able to reset the screen. But like I said, I'll show you that one in just a second. That's the basics there. And where else are we looking? Display settings. So when as big as bright as this display is, if you find it to be a bit too much, you could turn the display off, button press to bring it back to life, or you can do a calming screen instead. So you've just got the date and time, same idea, button press. You can adjust the brightness here. So if you want it brighter, darker, whatever the case may be. And then right now, this is technically the daytime mode. So auto means that it's going to flip between daytime or nighttime, just depending on how bright it is outside. I'm personally a bigger fan of the blue in the nighttime mode. Like that just looks beautiful. But I mean, your call there, and it's going to change up the Sync4 system, but also the cluster screen too, which is kind of nice. And moving back, shooting across, connectivity. So connectivity there. Oh, Bluetooth, that's the big one. If you wanted to toggle Bluetooth off, you could, but you can also change your vehicle name. So it's set up to Bronco right now. So if you wanted to change it to something like OJ, you could also do that as well. And then wireless app projection, Wi-Fi, view available networks. One of the big benefits there is that's really tied into software updates. So software updates, sometimes I definitely recommend setting a schedule for when you know the vehicle is going to be parked for like 4 or 5 hours at a time. Because when the vehicle does need to update, it can take 4 or 5 hours for it to download and then actually install the update for you. But you could hook it up to Wi-Fi if you wanted to go that route. The vehicle is enabled, well, it does have a wireless hotspot that's available. You do need a data-only plan through your cell phone provider in order to do it. But you can use up to 10 devices wirelessly instead, which is kind of nice. But your call if you want to do that. It's a couple extra bucks a month in order to be able to add it on. Ford Assistant. So you can push the voice command prompt on the steering wheel to get to your assistant. That is the command list. So whether or not you want that showing up, that's a matter of preference. But there are so many different commands. You can change the climate settings, media, you can navigate places, you can change the radio stations. Like there are so many different things that you can do with a voice assistant. So I definitely recommend going through and playing with it a little bit to really get an understanding of how amazing this system is. You can have it listen for a wake word. So rather than pushing the voice command prompt, you could say things like, "Okay, Ford," and it's going to pull up the command list for you here so that you can do something. Advanced mode means you won't get as many notifications. So let's say if you wanted to change to a different radio station, you just, "Okay, Ford, 94.9 FM. And it just does it. So you just won't get as many notifications. It'll just do what you're asking it to do. 911 Assist, definitely recommend keeping this one turned on with a phone connected to the vehicle. Because if you're ever in a serious accident, the vehicle's automatically going to dial 911 for you. Really good safety setting. And then valet mode, you can enter in a 4-digit number. Makes something like harder than 0000, but what it does is it locks the screen out fully until you re-enter that 4-digit number again in order to bring the screen back. So really, really good safety setting. Honestly, guys, I normally just recommend keeping that one turned on just for general safety and peace of mind. Some advanced features. So you've got driver assistance settings. Lane keeping system works 3 different ways. So way number 1, if you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, it'll give you a steering wheel shake. The aid is actually going to nudge you back into your lane, and the alert and the aid will do both. So if you're riding on the highway and you find, or the roadway, and you're finding that you're getting steering wheel shakes, it's because of this system. And then the intensity of the steering wheel shake when you do get it. Pre-collision assist, the vehicle can automatically brake for you if it senses a potential collision. blind spot monitoring system. So if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, it's going to highlight on your side view mirrors to let you know. The parking sensors, this one just has the rear sensors, which you can toggle off. If you had one with the front sensors, you could also toggle those ones off as well. So that's very useful if you're going off-road so that you don't get beeping all the time, which can get pretty annoying. Cross-traffic alert, if you're backing up and somebody's coming perpendicular, it's going to let you know of a potential obstacle or collision. And then driver alert, if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, it's going to tell you should probably take a break. There's also the digital owner's manual. So there's unfortunately no printed manual inside of this thing, but you can find everything you need inside of the digital owner's manual. So if this video didn't cover it off, like let's say if you wanted to know when you should be doing oil changes, you can search for that if you want to. So let's just do a quick search. So all sorts of options, engine oil, checking engine levels, and all sorts of other things. So you can do visual searches, there are videos that you can watch, and a number of other things. So if this video didn't cover off anything you needed to know about the infotainment system, you'll be able to find more information through that system there. If for whatever reason the Bronco infotainment system is giving you problems, like the audio's not working properly, the maps aren't working for you, other features, whatever the case may be, you can easily reset this screen. All you're going to do is push and hold the right seek button and the power button at the same time. It's going to be done for about 10 to 15 seconds. So all you're going to do is press and hold. You can see there, screen's turned off. It's going to take a second in order to come back on again. You can see it reloading there. So like I said, if you ever run into any problems, that's all you have to do. It resets it for you in order to kind of reset or wipe out any basic settings. Now, it's not a full factory reset. What this thing is doing is essentially just doing a soft reboot, which is going to fix any issues that it potentially may have been running into. So it's re-indexing everything, all that fun stuff. So I said, if you're ever running into issues, push and hold the volume button in and the right seek button about 10 seconds or so in order to be able to reset the screen. So I know that's quite a lot of information, but that's everything you need to know about the Sync4 screen inside of the Ford Bronco.